economics. Jarral, thank you very much for finding time to talk to us. And the major questions we want you to discuss is the effect of the coronavirus, first of all, on production, on producers, of what effect will have on plantings for the next season, what financial situation is with the producers. Also, the merchandising industry, how merchants are feeling. We expect that they are not doing well. And a little bit about the demand side. So that's major questions that of interest to us, to many of us right now.
Oh, thank you, Andrei. I really appreciate you having me on your program today. You know, COVID-19, I mean, it certainly has blindsided everyone. And I don't know how quickly, it didn't seem like it was going to be a very big deal. And then it became a very big deal indeed. I mean, especially here in the United States. I mean, we've tested, I think we have over 800,000 confirmed cases. You know, a lot of states have shelter-in-place orders in place. I mean, California, you know, our governor reacted fairly quickly and put shelter-in-place orders. And the, you know, life is fairly normal, I guess. Just from a personal point of view, you know, my wife and I weren't big restaurateurs or didn't go out to the nightlife, so things don't feel a lot different. You know, grocery stores are open, but you've got to be careful. You know, there are some things open. You can buy gas, obviously. You just can't go shopping. And I guess, you know, from a standpoint, from a cotton standpoint, I mean, if you can't go shopping, we saw the March retail numbers here in the United States. They were down over 50% at apparel store sales, apparel and accessory store sales. That was monstrous. So things are backing up all along the supply chain. From, you know, growers, you know, I think things were looking pretty good early before this virus hit. You know, we were in the low 70s, and then as the virus kind of gained some momentum, you know, it pushed prices down. We've come down to, as you know, under 50 cents in the nearby contract. December, I think, hit a low of around 51 to 52 cents, while corn and soybeans stayed relatively elevated. At the end of March, USDA released their planting intention survey, and much to everyone's surprise, the planting survey indicated that really there were going to be no changes in plantings here in the United States. Of course, that survey was taken in late February and very early March, really before prices just completely cratered. And so I don't know that growers were thinking much about switching crops. From, you know, anecdotally, since that time, you know, across the United States, you know, plantings are expected to be down, but no one really knows how far they will be down. The growers are still trying to make up their minds in terms of what they're going to do. Out here in the western United States, after the planting intention survey came out, it showed California down very, very little in overall acres, but I can tell you that talking to growers that Pima acreage will be down significantly from a year ago. Upland acres won't drop very far, but upland acres were never big anyway here in California. You know, the cost of water, the alternative crops that growers have, you know, upland cotton has just become more challenging for growers. And really it's turned into a seed contract episode out here where if growers get good seed contracts to produce upland seed for, you know, for the seed companies for the following years, you know, they can make the upland cotton work. Typically, if you can make a good yield, the Pima cotton works much better out here in California with water costs and all the other costs combined. But even Pima cotton this year has been, prices have not been so good, and prices and acreage will be down as we move forward. I think USDA was indicating The PEMA acreage in California would be somewhere around 200,000 acres. We think it's going to be somewhere closer to 160,000. Maybe it could be lower than that, but probably somewhere between 160 and 170,000 acres when it's all said and done. Arizona will be down as well. They did not have a good year last year. Yields were off, the weather was bad, the qualities were bad, and prices were not good by the time that crop was harvested and into the barn. So, it's believed that Arizona, USDA, I think, was anticipating 130,000 acres for Arizona. It could be under 100,000 acres as far as upland acres are concerned. Texas, you look at Texas, that's such a big state, obviously. They've had some planting problems in the coastal bend. Weather was an issue. Got too dry. Luckily, they've had some rains here very recently, and growers who didn't think they would be planting and didn't expect to be planting because of the dry weather, because of insurance programs, once they got the rains, they've had to go in and plant. So you're going to have a later crop down there, at a little bit later than normal crop in some of the areas along the coastal bend. Other growers in the coastal bend have had, the way that they're set up, they're going to produce things just right. I mean, the crop went in timely. They've had just enough good weather that the crop is progressing nicely. Now all really the coastal bend needs is good rain going forward. You move up to the high plains of Texas, where most of the acres are. I think the 25 high plains counties of Texas accounts for around 65% of the total acres in Texas. They don't have a lot of choices. You get north of Lubbock up into the Panhandle, and you do have some choices like corn, and I think corn will probably increase a little bit this year versus cotton acres, only because corn is a little bit cheaper and they've got some irrigation. Cotton wasn't very good for the high plains last year, but you move south into that Lubbock, all around Lubbock, and a little bit further south of there, their choices are very, very limited. It's corn, it's milo, or some people know grain sorghum, and those can work. But generally, guys like to grow cotton down there if they can. But they may be putting a cotton crop in, but where prices are right now, they're going to try to grow that crop as cheaply as possible. Probably not your normal slug of inputs that you might normally see, because they just don't have the money, and prices are not so good. The Mid-South and Southeastern states will be down. You're starting to get a little bit late in the Mid-South states for planting because it's been so wet there. You're maybe a week or so away from missing an optimum corn planting window. And if they miss the corn planting window, they may end up going into soybeans as opposed to cotton. They could choose cotton, but they may just go into soybeans because that's a little less capital intensive crop to grow. The other side of that is, particularly in the high plains of Texas, in the Mid-South, there's been a big investment in machinery and infrastructure the last couple of years because cotton prices have been pretty good. So, I don't know that the acres will be down a lot from where the acreage survey is, but, USDA was looking at 13.7 million acres. I think it's going to end up being somewhere around 12.5 to 13 million. So maybe as much as 1.2 million acres lower. We just won't get a good idea of the planting numbers until we get into the June planting numbers that come out of USDA.
Jarral, what about the demand side? There are anecdotal evidence of some cancellations by retailers, brands, and it coming back to merchants. who face cancellations and defaults.
Yes.
What's the situation over there?
So the supply side seems okay. You know, I mean, even with lower prices, guys are going to plant cotton. The demand side is where the big bugaboo is right now. China is just now trying to get its feet back on the ground. But even those companies that are operating now, they're not operating at full capacity. Inquiries out of China are far and few in between, although the reserve looks to be buying cotton. Just this morning, cotton prices are up on rumors that the Chinese reserve has started coming in and buying U.S. cotton. I do think it's more than a rumor. You know, the rumor is that over the next 2 years, or maybe as much as 1 million tons of cotton will be bought from the United States. But okay, so it goes to China, and then what? They turn it into yarn, and they turn it into garments or something. But then where does it go? If they're not getting orders out of the retail sector, and this is where the big bugaboo is, you know, with this whole COVID thing, essentially shutting down the world, you know, where do these goods go? Not only do you have physical inventories of raw cotton, but now you're building up inventories of yarn. So it's, you know, things are kind of backing up in the system. Bangladesh, you know, when the COVID thing first started and people started trying to switch, you know, destinations or origins and where they could get their goods, you know, that country is shut down right now. They're supposed to open up on May the 3rd, I think it is. But it looks like, you know, talking to Bangladesh just yesterday, that they expect that possibly that country could stay shut down for another month. Turkey is operating at maybe 30% capacity as far as its spinning operations are going. Of course, a lot of the Turkish production is going into the European marketplace. You know, there were some signs yesterday, for example, that, you know, a big retailer was going to try to start reopening some stores in Germany and in the Netherlands, and then maybe trying to expand that over time to the rest of Germany. So from a retail standpoint, things are not good at the moment. I do think that people are still ordering stuff online, but, you know, for a lot of consumers, they love going out shopping, you know, looking at the clothes, trying it on in the, you know, in the fitting rooms, and before they'll buy something. So it's going to be tough for a while. So the demand side is going to take a while to get back into full throttle. You know, if they lifted all of these shelter-in-place rules that we have all over the world today, you know, would things return to normal tomorrow? I don't think so. You know, people are still going to be nervous about going to a store. You go into a retail store, for example, you're going to try something on, something that somebody else has touched, and, you know, what you're going to have maybe the salespeople there with their mask and gloves on. I mean, it's going to be uncomfortable for a while. I can't tell you how uncomfortable it might be. Andre, just a moment here. I think I've got a leaf blower or something going on in the background. Can you hear that? Unfortunately.
That's okay. That's okay. Anyway, that's major questions we wanted to ask you, and we thank you very much for your time. And I hope that we can talk to you later again.
Okay. Well, thank you, Andre. I certainly enjoyed being part of your program today, and I'm sorry about the noise pollution.
Thank you very much, Jarral. We'll speak to you later. Thank you for your time.
Bye.